Hey, everybody. Great to see all of you in attendance today. So welcome to today's session, Lessons from Top Limited Partners. So this is going to be a really awesome event. It's both a celebration, it's the conclusion of the second cohort of the LP Institute, and it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for you all to learn. We have two of our top limited partners here today. They're going to be sharing a bit about their LP journey, their experience as participants in the LP Institute, and it's really going to be fantastic. So just a couple of words on the order of operations for today. We're going to start with kind of a quick introduction and overview of the LP Institute, as well as introducing our great panelists. We'll then run the panel for about 25 to 30 minutes or so. We'll then move to Q&A. So if you would take a, kind of look to the right here on AirMeet, you'll see a Q&A button. And anytime you've got a brilliant question that you want to ask one of our panelists, feel free to start populating your questions there. So we'll reserve a good 10 minutes or so for questions. And then at the conclusion, if you stick around, we will also have networking tables. And we'll kind of walk through that process toward the end. But basically, you'll stay on the link you're on right now. The screen will sort of change. You'll see a couple of tables that you can join. It'll be an opportunity to both ask more questions about the programs, ask about, Fenella or John's experience, and just to meet some of the other folks in attendance today. So also as a reminder, if you look below, you'll see a whole bunch of emojis. Please use those, very liberally. We love to have, interactive sessions. And so, it's always helpful for the speakers, if they make a point that you find interesting, one of those little golden nuggets, for you to, give us a couple of emojis. Awesome. Love to see it. So let's start with just a little bit about the LP Institute. The LP Institute is an 8-week program that combines education and deal flow for accredited investors investing in venture capital funds. So why us? Why are we the ones to do this program? Well, I think it's important to point out that VC Lab is really in a unique position, and Decel Group is in a unique position to offer the LP Institute. VC Lab is the largest emerging manager accelerator program. So we've accelerated hundreds of top emerging funds. So as you might imagine, our access to deal flow is really fantastic. We've interacted with hundreds of funds over the lifetime of VC Lab, and we've interacted with thousands of LPs. So we're in a pretty unique position, both from an education and deal flow standpoint, to be able to deliver on a program like this. So our goal is really to help develop a process, right, that will help lead to a high quality investment. And that's really the goal of our 8-week program. So it's very much learning by doing, right? Everyone who participates in the program is actively out there meeting with managers. Hopefully it culminates in an investment, but that's not a requirement of the program. And just to touch on a couple of core pieces of the program. One, sprints. So you probably all remember homework assignments from school. So our version of this is really, some light readings in addition to self-reflection, but it's all in service of, again, this goal of helping you develop both a process and find really interesting investment opportunities. So all of the assignments are going to, really involve you being out there, sort of mixing it up with managers and really, building the toolbox of questions and diligence that you would be using to evaluate funds. We also have an interactive case study component. So we have our own fund of funds called Decel Capital. And Decel Capital is very much actively investing in emerging managers. And participants in the LP Institute actually get to sort of follow along as we make live investments. So we had a really fantastic case study that Marco walked us through in this most recent cohort. And that's something we're going to continue to build on going into the third iteration of the LP Institute. Another key piece are working groups, which is an opportunity both for sort of social due diligence as well as networking. So obviously we want you to meet your, sort of peers in the program. And then lastly, we have a really fantastic slate of both mentors and speakers who come in on nearly a weekly basis. We've had some really fantastic folks over the last two cohorts. A recent example being like Jacqueline Hester, who runs the fund of funds associated with Foundry, one of the most renowned VC firms out there. So that is to say, we've got a new cohort that's coming up. We're scheduled to kick off around October 16th. So please get your applications in. I think a link will be shared to the application over in the chat. So without further ado, I would love to jump into our panel. So joining us today, we have Fenella Kim and John MacArthur. And I probably wouldn't do them justice with my own introduction. So I'll ask, maybe starting with Fenella, to share a little bit about her background, and then we'll pass it over to John.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Sam, for having me today. Yeah, so I was a former founder and CEO of a fintech company. So prior to LP Institute, I have done some angel investing on my own, and I just find that there's not enough deal flow and there's not enough discipline and structure. So, and that's the reason why, I decided to join Cohort 2.
And John?
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here today. John MacArthur. I'm the CIO of an independent RIA based out of St. Louis, and I've had a great deal of intellectual curiosity in the venture capital space, both personally and professionally on behalf of our firm and clients of our firm. So it's been an absolute pleasure to get to go through the program, and I'm excited to share some of the learnings as we go.
Terrific. Well, let's jump into it. So, the first thing I'd like to ask both of you, and we've already kind of touched upon it a little bit, is really understanding motivations. I feel like that's always very powerful, especially from an investment perspective. I'd be curious, what drew you to the LP Institute and investing in venture funds more generally? Fenella, maybe we could start with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so in the past, I have been just sort of reviewing pitch deck and whatever that comes and fell on my lap. I just feel like I needed more structure, discipline, and sort of do a deep dive and really understand what the VC world is about, the legal structure, different terminology lingo, what is a good MOIC, what is a good IRR and DPI to look for. So having found and joined LP Institute, I find that I am now more familiar and understand the step-by-step due diligence process, so that I can make better decisions when I'm investing in either a fund or a startup.
Great. John, how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, as our team and myself has spent a significant portion of time in due diligence on an active and ongoing basis, venture capital has been newer generally to us over the last handful of years, and I increasingly see data that supports the notion of just the attractiveness of the emerging manager space and how much how much upside potential exists, and frankly how much talent exists in the emerging manager space, not to mention access relative to perhaps other much larger funds. And for me, it's been really exciting to just get to learn from such a talented cohort of people. And so really just to continuing to sharpen the skills, both personally as an LP and at more of an institutional level.
Amazing. So The second question that I wanted to ask, and I think Fenella, you've already started to get into it a little bit, is how in what ways has the program made you a more confident investor or limited partner? And if you feel like that's a little duplicative, we could also, you could elaborate on maybe a favorite part of the program that you had.
Yeah, so you touch base about the sprint, right? So there's the total 8 sprint that we have to go through week by week. It's the material, the reading, and then the self-reflection, coming up with questions to ask, and interviewing all these, excellent emerging managers and really comparing them to your thesis and going through the due diligence in the data room. And Decile Group has an amazing tool called the Decile Base, which I love and I use it a lot, which is like the AI co-pilot of, if you have a question, you type it in and it spits out the answer for you. So like going in, trying to learn how to be a better LP, there's a lot of terminology and lingo that I do not understand what that stands for, and I'm able to put that in. Um, Also, just the team of Decile Group, VC Lab, LP Institute, everybody was so supportive. And Adil, Marco, you, Sam, Mike, Murto, everybody is so readily available, willing to help. And we're able to book a time, schedule calendar. If we have any, as we are interviewing and going through and trying to choose a fund or trying to choose an investment, we can ask them all these questions that help us with the learning. I think that's tremendous value.
John, how about yourself?
I would echo Fenella's comments for certain. And I would add, I think for me, as you go through the weekly sprints, it's the old adage, nothing worthwhile comes easy, and it's not always easy to spend time on fund terms and the legal structure and some of the more fundamental parts of a due diligence process. And I think the LP Institute for me did such a great job of helping me develop and refine my own quantitative process for what's a generally qualitative space, right? I mean, of course, you can look at, and it's important to look at, individual track record, but for a lot of these managers, it's fund one or fund two, in many cases. And so really quantifying and refining the process through the weekly steps and utilizing the tools and resources with Decile Hub and Decile Pro. I mean, it's been really an incredibly educational experience. And again, I do this, as my day job as a CIO as well. But in this particular space, I don't have a great deal of experience and lots of humility in terms of how I can get better, both as a personal investor in LP and then from the institutional lens. So yeah, I think that's the essence.
No, I really appreciate it. And, one of the things I appreciate, about both of you is just how intentional you've been about, your sort of overall approach to, sort of the self-education in this asset class. And although, no one's asking me, I will say that my favorite part of the program, from the staff standpoint, for sure, are some of the one-on-one, conversations that I get to have with the LPs. People are encouraged to book office hours. I think I got to, talk with both of you individually, maybe even a couple times. And yeah, just those relationships are so important. And yeah, it's really one of my, favorite parts of the program.
I might add, Sam,
go ahead.
If you don't mind, to
Sure.
kind of add to that point. I mean, the access to talk to yourself and Adeo and Marco and Mike, I mean, and the rest of the team for that matter, the interest and attention to learn from you all has been incredibly valuable. That one-on-one time spent. I think the other really enjoyable aspect of the program is the networking sessions. I mean, to be able to collaborate and discuss in a really authentic way in a small group setting with LPs across the globe that have a tremendous amount of experience and expertise, whether as founders or um, operators. I mean, you name it. There's just a lot of different backgrounds in the program, and that was really invigorating. A lot of fun for me.
I love to hear it. So, I mentioned before learning by doing. Um, Both of you were very active meeting with, lots of managers in our program, potentially outside the program. I'm curious, did you have any sort of observations or takeaways from the interactions and pitches that you had with GPs, or an anecdote that you could share there? Maybe Fenella, you could start.
Yeah, definitely. So I have the opportunity, to travel while I was in cohort two. So I did attend some venture summit, startup events, meet up with different emerging fund manager, as well as going through DESA Pro, which is, those are excellent group of emerging managers that are graduated from VC Lab. Just sort of do the comparison of that. What really stood out was the emerging GPs that are graduated from VC Lab. They all are using Dessa Hub. So, the back end system, the operation, that itself already made me feel quite comfortable. And having access to data room and seeing how some of these graduate from VC Lab top fund manager, how they organized the data room and the amount of information that I can go in and do due diligence and combine with the learning that I've learned from LP Institute, the step by step, and putting together an Excel table, a chart table, sort of like combining and scoring them based on the thesis, the operation, the track record, and all that. It really made my experience in making investment decision better.
That's great. And I swear we're not paying Fenella to say this. How about you, John? Are you, any interesting anecdotes or sort of observations from your interactions with the fund managers?
I think what was really challenging for me was like the consistent quality and access to incredibly talented people and process. In my experience, and you're right, I was very active, like Fenella was, in having a lot of conversations with a lot of different managers, and they're all varying degrees of incredibly talented and have really interesting worldviews and fun thesis and process. So that was actually hard, honestly, to sift through when the consistent quality of talent and offerings was so high. It's I think I was really shocked at again, I'll echo what Fenella said, just, and this is a credit to the Decile group and just kind of the assistance, I'm assuming, in platform with presentation and track record and all of the great tools and complementary value adds that you all provide. It made the overall presentation and process easy for an LP and smooth. And again, deal flow, which in a world where it's otherwise kind of hard to find, or it ends up in your lap somehow, and you question, how am I seeing this kind of thing? I think it's a great, it's just a great resource. I think the other thing I would say is, it helped me understand how much of a the people part of it is so important. To have multiple conversations with managers and getting to learn their story and what drives and motivates them It's frankly, it's super inspiring. It makes me want to, partner with them and ask what I can do as an LP to help them in their mission. Yeah, so those are some things that stood out.
Yeah, for sure. There really are some managers who are, truly building movements as much as funds, right? So maybe we shift gears slightly, and I'd love to ask, each of you, what's an interesting trend you're paying attention to, or one of the biggest trends, whether it be, venture capital related or more on the limited partner side, that has you excited? I mean, we're at a really interesting, kind of time with, AI innovation and lots of new, fund managers coming to market. Kind of curious, what gets you excited? Maybe we'll, go back to Fenella.
Yeah. So I travel a lot around the globe. So I kind of see the trend that Southeast Asia is just starting to pick up the steam in terms of the VC. There's a lot of PE, but there are not enough VC funds that are supporting the startups. So therefore, I find that the valuation of companies in that region tend to be a lot more reasonable as compared to like Silicon Valley here in US. The other region that is interests me is also the Middle East, the MENA region. They're picking up too. The economy it's growing, especially in the UAE, Dubai, Middle East area. That also caught my attention.
Oh, that's a very global perspective. That's great. And
Yes,
John, how
yes,
about you?
I
Or
think for me, you might often hear on the financial media a lot of skepticism around AI and what it is and what it may or may not be. I think for me, this process and getting closer to kind of boots on the ground, if you will, in visiting with emerging managers and the companies that they are um, involved with is extremely exciting, and it gives me great conviction around kind of phase two, if you will, of the AI movement and what it means going forward, just on a broader basis, and the application and adoption on a go forward. I truly believe that we're in early days in terms of some really exciting businesses and results from it. I think this process helped me see that more clearly. I think specifically, as I've learned about, I'm no expert by a long shot, but as I see AI and the impacts of, biotech and health sciences and ag tech and supply chain and some of the really exciting things, just as a few examples that are happening there. It gives me no doubt that some great change and efficiencies are coming in the future.
it's definitely an exciting area. Um, well, just a reminder to everybody, feel free to, if you've got questions for our panelists, use that Q&A button, or you can, save some questions for the networking tables as well. We're going to just do one or two more questions for the panel, and then, we'll sort of shift into our next segment. So, would like to ask both of you, we've got a lot of aspiring, LPs in the audience today. Do you have one or two sort of top tips for these aspiring folks? What's something that you kind of wish you knew kind of going into the program, or was like a, kind of key golden nugget takeaway? Maybe Fenella, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, sure. So definitely follow the sprint. It's there for a reason. It is a step-by-step learning process. Get on the call and start interviewing all these emerging funds manager as soon as possible, because before you know it, it's the end of the program. Like just week by week pass by so quickly. So for me, I almost felt like there's not enough time, right? There's all these awesome, amazing fund manager that I would love to get to know them and to be able to do a deep dive and then follow through and sign the pack and then follow through the go in and visit the data room, and it's the time that you need to uh, dedicate to spend and to go through this. And I can assure you, if you go through this process, you'll come out extremely rewarding.
Thank you. No, that's great advice. And John, how about you? Any, sort of top tips for folks, whether it's related to the program or just LP investing in general?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Fenella. I think the discipline to sticking to the timeline and the process, taking advantage of office hours. I think having gone through it, for me, the conviction and confidence in this space was increased significantly. And I think that a big turning point for me was once those meetings and conversations began happening with managers. That was a really exciting part of the process. And the receptiveness and the willingness for any and all questions and deep level of engagement, that was really exciting, fun part of the process for sure.
Awesome. Well, maybe one final question. I'm curious, what aspect of the LP, journey has sort of brought you the most personal satisfaction so far? I mean, I feel like both of you have touched on different aspects of, things that you really liked about the experience meeting managers, or, kind of the intellectual aspect of it. But yeah, just kind of curious to hear, maybe Fenella, what do you really love about being an LP?
Yeah, so for me, being a founder and a former CEO of a fintech company, uh, it's exciting, to look through pitch deck and find through the deals that you are a subject matter expert of, and you find that, wow, okay, if I can invest in this startup and I can help open up some doors, give them some resources, and perhaps help them line up with introduction to other funds that could help them benefit them from future fundraising. That's amazing. Not only I could help them, and I can help me to get my return on investment much quicker.
Terrific. And John?
I think for me, the conviction and confidence in process as an LP was such a major lift. So that was incredibly valuable. And then I mentioned earlier the people side of it. It's getting to meet these managers. I feel like on a more personal level. And as Fenella said, I mean, it's if I and we can help them, then that's a great thing. We're all moving in the same direction.
No, I really appreciate it. I mean, the people aspect of venture capital is such an important one. And then, to Fenella's point, I feel like we could spend a couple hours talking about this concept of, being a value add LP, and, what is the role of a really great LP for a venture fund. But I think that's probably for another panel. So let's jump into some questions that we've got from the audience. We'll do that for a few minutes before breaking for our networking tables. All right, so our first question from Juliana, as it relates to great valuations, would you consider under-ventured, under-invested areas like Canada for deal flow, or do you tend to stick to the countries that you know? So can start with either of you, if you've got a particular perspective on investing in markets that you're maybe unfamiliar with. Actually, maybe we'll start with Fenella, because I know you've been doing a lot of traveling into a few new areas for you.
Yeah, so for me, I'm country agnostic. So I invest globally. It's the business. It's the idea. It's the startup company. Do they have the potential? Do I understand the business? Do I see that they potentially could exit in a short time frame that I'm looking for? It's what helps me to make my investment decision.
I echo that. I'm country agnostic, and I think just having a global view, lends itself to just incredible opportunity. And there's no question that there's really exciting things happening at a global level.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, entrepreneurial talent is truly everywhere. So we've got another question that we've got from Arushi. Maybe I'm going to say slightly self-interested, but that's what we're here for. So he's asking, from the LP perspective, how do GPs best reach out to you? What channels, do you sort of prefer, whether that's email or LinkedIn or something? And then how does that sort of work toward your own sort of sourcing for, fun deal flow? Maybe Fenella, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Email is best, right? That's the way that we usually in US we do business via email. But I also am aware that GP and businesses that are from different region or different parts of the world, they prefer to communicate differently. For example, certain region they prefer to use WhatsApp. So I would communicate with the GP via WhatsApp, and even sending documents, exchanging of information that way. Yeah, so it really depends on the preference of the GP, I would say.
Perfect. John, any follow-up?
Yeah, I would say email and LinkedIn are probably the two most common in ease of use. I mean, at all hours of the day type of access. A lot of times it may not be until the chaos of the day ends, so to speak, where I kind of get to dive in and engage in that way. But those would be my two primary, I would say.
And are you both sort of receptive to, sort of cold outreach, or do you tend to, kind of really lean more into, warm introductions and that sort of thing?
I am receptive. Yeah. So I get a lot of LinkedIn connection requests and messaging all the time. And a lot of GP would send us a link to the pitch deck and through LinkedIn, and I click on it. And if this is something that I'm interested in, I would message back and schedule time.
Awesome.
Yeah. Same for me. I mean, it's really just a function of volume and that kind of first impression, if you will, or connection or initial message.
All right. So is a last question here before we move over to the networking. Aditha is asking, what are some of the key parameters or attributes that you would look for before investing in a first-time manager? And I'll just point out that given VC Labs Accelerator program, we're helping launch predominantly first funds, although we have programs for folks who are a little bit further along as well. That's been a real emphasis of the LP Institute, is kind of a focus on first-time fund managers. So, just kind of curious for, an attribute or thought from you both on, if you would, and I think you are investing in first-time fund managers, what makes, somebody really, stick out from the pack?
Yeah, sure. So I would look at their track record. Do they have experience as an angel investor? Have they been working in the past in the VC company as an executive, or have some sort of role and familiar and have this type of experience if they have not done much angel investing? I'll look also at the thesis, like if the fund is about investing in AI, machine learning, big data, all these. I'll look at the fund manager themselves, whether are they a subject matter expert in this field, and therefore it makes them much easier to identify and pick the right startup to invest in that field.
That's great.
John.
John, anything you're looking for
Yeah,
specifically?
I would say outside of kind of their network and sourcing and their own personal journey and background, I think for me, activity level stands out. I think I've noticed this general theme, not surprising, that the kind of the ambition out of emerging managers is consistently impressive. Like the drive to demonstrate. So I think kind of gauging volume and activity levels in a number of different aspects becomes pretty evident in initial conversations. All the things they're doing, like, again, broadly speaking, from an activity perspective, I think an emerging manager would generally say that their activity levels and eyes on opportunities are, perhaps greater than someone that may be more complacent.
I love that. Yeah, it's such an interesting, sort of inflection point for a lot of these, folks at Fund One. I think people forget how difficult it really is to start a venture capital fund. So these are people who are probably not, particularly, high paid, and they're really doing it for the love of the game, which is fantastic. And looks like we've got Adeo's joined us. Hey, Adeo.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they came on stage. I was like backstage.
Well, any quick words of wisdom, Adeo, before we move over to the networking tables?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, John and Fenella, for joining us today. This is just great to see you. I was off actually talking with LPs and from around the world about some of the things that we're working on, and it's really an exciting time right now. And I want to just characterize what I'm seeing in the market for everybody and talk a little bit about what we're doing, and then we'll jump into the tables, and I'll be at the tables to answer questions. Okay. So first off, wow, what an exciting time in the world it is today. I mean, it's just, the adoption of AI, there was a report that came out, is at faster levels than any other technology in history, including the internet, mobile, etc. It's just rushing out into all areas of the world, affecting everything from healthcare to SaaS and literally everything in between, which means it's just an amazing time to invest. You can invest in things right today that feel like they're from the future. And that really hasn't been the case for a long time. And so what we're seeing in the market of venture capital is what I'm calling a barbell phenomenon. On the one hand, you have these mega funds raising billions of dollars, like $7 billion fund series, $6 billion fund series, and even higher in the case of SoftBank way back when, $100 billion, but like crazy sizes of funds. And they're getting a lot of the traditional limited partner money and into these mega funds, right? And that's why you hear everyone on Twitter or whatever, oh my God, what's going to happen to new and emerging managers? Well, actually, there's a barbell strategy. So on the other side, from these mega managers, there's these new and emerging managers, and they're also seeing an enormous amount of success because they're raising from emerging limited partners. And that's what a lot of people here are. They're limited partners that are maybe making their first investment or just started investing in the last couple years. So they haven't made a lot of investments into venture before, but they're just starting now. And there's, just to give you a sense of scale, the first two cohorts of the LP Institute had 50 people each, or 50 limited partners, I should say, each. And they had a combined investment value of $750 million going into emerging managers over the next 12 to 18 months. So you're seeing these big funds suck up all the established LP capital, but you're seeing like small, new and emerging funds really capture the imagination of emerging limited partners. And that's why we built the LP Institute, to help emerging limited partners master the craft of investing in these new and emerging managers, because it's very different. You don't have a ton of data. You have to back the person and their track record. You have to believe in the vision of what that person's working on. And we're going to help you through all that. And one of the things I did earlier this morning, which was super exciting, is I revealed some of the tools that we're putting out there in the market. Let me see if I could even show some of them quickly. Oh, maybe that will work or didn't work. I don't want to, let me try one more time and let's see if I can do it. But yeah, so we're building these amazing tools that are allowing managers to discover, meet, and invest in new and emerging managers in powerful and exciting ways. So I'll see if I can pull them up. But and the idea is that okay, I've asked people to guess how many LPs our systems are tracking, and people are like 5,000. I'm like, no, higher. And they're like 15,000. I'm like, wrong. So our systems right now are tracking 145,000 distinct limited partners, most of whom are emerging limited partners. Okay. And they all want deal flow. They all want an easier experience to discover, to engage with, and to invest in new and emerging managers. And by the way, they're all interested and passionate about new and emerging managers because that's where the returns are, right? It's well known in the venture capital industry that smaller fund sizes, okay, run by specialist managers who are hungry, return better, right? It's very hard to get a 20x on a $7 billion fund. That's like the GDP of a small country, right? But it's a lot easier to get a 20x on a 10 or $15 million fund. It's very plausible, as a matter of fact. So that's happening. Now, I'm trying to load over here the screens to show you, and it's for one, here we go. So I'll share it with you quickly. Let's see if this works. So this is the presentation that I gave to LPs earlier. And I said, we're building this. And they went bonkers, okay? They were like, I just logged into my LP dashboard and it's not live yet. Like, where is it? And I'm like, it's not, it's coming out in about a week or two. It's actually coming out for LP Institute 3. And we're creating an app store experience for you to discover new and emerging managers worldwide. There'll be featured managers at the top, and then there's baskets of managers. So obviously the very top, there's, you can search and you can browse. You could say, hey, I want to have, by the way, I see lots of hearts. Give some hearts if you would like a tool like this to find emerging managers. Okay, that's a lot of hearts. All right. Well, that was the response we got earlier today, but we built this because managers, the LPs told us they want it. They said, we want search functionalities so you can search. We want browse functionalities so you can browse. In addition to that, we put managers in baskets so you could look at women managers, managers in Africa, managers on any kind of, all sorts of baskets, AI, healthcare, very food tech, agri-tech, etc. Very easy for you to find managers to explore. We got tags on their stage, their background, everything. We may even allow them to do videos. We're going to allow you to bookmark them. And more than just like getting a meeting or looking at materials, you'll see there's this featured events. I don't think, you can see my mouse. There's featured events. Our managers are hosting events. And so you don't need to like book a meeting with them one-on-one. You could say, I just want to learn more about the fund, but I don't want to do a one-on-one meeting. So you can just very easily click and go right to an event that they're hosting along with other people and just sit there silently rather than have to go through a one-on-one meeting. So our goal, everybody, is to make this a amazing experience and really unlock the power and potential of investing in new and emerging managers. And that's where all the returns are, right? I'm not saying if you can get into a Sequoia N billion-dollar fund family, good on you, right? And good luck for getting crazy returns. But I would say you're just as likely to get crazy returns from a hot emerging manager that has a smaller fund size, domain expertise, and is really working hard and hustling to be the best that they can be. And we're going to make that easy for you to find those managers, connect with them, and if it's right, invest in them. And that's our goal. That's our goal with this. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, John and Fenella. Thank you, Sam, for helping run such an amazing program. It's an honor and a privilege to unlock this opportunity for everyone here. And I hope that I can see you all at the tables in a moment. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, a big thanks to Adeo for joining us. I'm pretty pumped up after that little pep talk, so I'm sure you all are as well. And just to echo, Adeo's thoughts, huge thank you and congratulations to Fenella and John. Today is the culmination and kind of end of cohort 2 for the LP Institute, but really just the start of, I'm sure, what are going to be long and prosperous LP journeys for both of them. And just a reminder, please, if you're interested, get your applications in soon for cohort 3. And with that, as mentioned, we're going to move over to the networking table. So you will see the screen change. You'll see a couple tables. Each of the tables will have a description. So I believe Mirto will be at a table specifically for those of you who have questions on the upcoming program. I'll be at a table with a bunch of LP Institute alumni. So pick whatever table is most appropriate for you, and we'll see you soon. We really appreciate you joining us today. And thanks again, Fenella and John. This was a really fantastic panel. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.